Hey, Sam, what are we doing this weekend?
We're going to spend the next 2 days hanging out with a bunch of nerds.
So it's just another normal weekend then, right?
No, we're going to Pensacon.
Yeah.
But that's not what I was thinking about, Sam.
I got no clue.
Happy birthday to you. Happy. Yeah, that's all we're going to do.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah,
all right.
That's good.
I'm going to get enough of that this weekend.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the show after these ads specifically chosen for you because we're heading to a con this weekend and we're probably going to spend way too much money on Star Wars and Batman stuff and we need to make some money. So this is Tatooine Sons.
A shoot to Star Wars, DC, Marvel, and any other pop culture thing.
What's the one we're going to use this week?
Anime. I don't know.
Anime.
Okay, wow.
I don't even like anime. It was just the first thing that came to mind. Nathan was scrolling through Netflix the other day,
And suddenly
just
a third of our audience turns the show off.
The only anime I like is Transformers. So anyway, thanks for listening. Before we get into today's show, though, I'd like to remind you that Tatooine Sons has a TeePublic store you've got to check out. We've got lots of shirts, mugs, stickers, throw pillows.
Yeah, new logo shirt.
Tapestries,
We're all wearing our
apparently.
new logo
Yes,
shirt right
I mean,
now.
I hold it up as if there's a camera seeing
You
my
know
shirt
what?
right now.
In your mind's eye.
Yes. And it's got all your favorite characters from all your favorite pop culture franchises, except anime, because it's weird. Of course, my my favorites are the Boba Fett shirts, but that's just me. It's easy to get to. Just click on the link here in the show notes and take a look around. But enough of that. Let's get this show started.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the Porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that Porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody listen to that.
Yesterday, when we did our show at the end of the day, we literally predicted just about everything that happened in this episode. It was pretty awesome. So, yeah. You guys don't nothing from you.
Well, I wasn't there for the Twitter Space thing, so I didn't.
I know. Why don't you? Well, you guys, I don't like you guys being on Twitter because it can get.
It's weird.
Yeah, welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast, and we believe that pop culture is the mythology of this generation, and that there's a story written on our souls. And these myths speak to that story. And that's why we talk about Star Wars and Marvel and DC and Lord of the Rings and a bunch of other things and not anime, because that's just not what we do. But that's it. Yeah, I'm David. I'm the dad. I'm joined by a couple of really cool guys. First, Samuel the Hutt. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
You sound enthusiastic.
I was enthusiastic.
Yeah. What are you talking about on this episode?
Well, speaking of myths, we're going to talk about the Eternals, which is full of myths. So that'll be really interesting.
That's exciting. How are you today, baby Nate?
I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah.
Good. I had to explain to his doctor the other day that when they ask him how he's doing, he could be in the worst pain that he imaginable, and he's going to say, okay. And if he could be having the best day of his life, and he's going to say, okay. So they have to get a little bit more deep with him on that. But what are you talking about this week?
I'm talking about the Batman The Long Halloween Part 2 trailer that came out this week.
That's something you're very excited
I am
about.
very excited.
With that. Yeah, and I'm going to, of course, talk about The Bad Batch, Episode 4, Cornered, which is exciting. But before we get into all of that, BB Nate,
yes,
give us everybody an update on what's going on with your neck and what we've learned this week and what we're doing to fix it.
Well, my neck is there. That's good.
I guess that's better than the alternative
of it not being there. So basically, it's just been hurting for a few weeks. So we went to the chiropractor. and they said that I have ligament damage on my neck. I don't really know what it is.
So basically, you've got 4 vertebrae in your neck, and then a couple vertebrae in your lower back that are completely out of alignment. The doctor described your X-ray as looking like a car accident.
Yeah, so it's fun
with that. So you've been going to some therapy and popping it in and out, and they took you off all of your narcotics that you were on. The doctor was pretty upset that the other doctors had put you on narcotics.
Didn't even know.
With that. So you're off of that and managing your pain as best as you can. So yeah, and we if you're a praying person, we would appreciate your prayers, because it's been a rough few weeks for BB Nate. But enough about your ailments with that. Samuel the Hutt, happy birthday officially.
Oh, thank you.
Your birthday's Monday, but we're going to have your party Sunday afternoon, and Savannah will, of course, be there, and Grammy will be there, and Mom and Dad, but me, Mom, and Papa are going to be here for this one. Rachel and Jody, your
that's rare.
Aunt and uncle, whose your aunt's birthday is the same day as that. And then it's kind of weird calling her aunt.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, because I don't know. It just feels off to me. But anyway, it's cool. And let's see who else. Savannah's parents are going to be there. Do we know if Nathan and his girlfriend?
They're going to try and be here. Yeah, they think they'll be.
Nathan not being BB Nate. Nathan being Savannah's little brother, who's also named Nathan.
Yes, it's not confusing at all.
It was destiny that they come together. So we're going to have a good time. We're going to play some escape room type stuff here at the house and have some burgers and dogs.
Cake and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He might get a present or two. We'll have to see on that.
I don't know.
But yeah, we're recording early today, and we're still debating whether or not to get this episode to release earlier than normal, and there's a reason behind it.
Either we explain the reason and spoil it, or we have to release it later. Then
it's weird.
This is a decision moment. This is like those Telltale games.
So this is actually
pause.
a test for me. This is a test now. I'm going to test your girlfriend to see if she listens to the episode before we get there.
She does.
So if she's if Savannah, if you're listening to this episode before you meet us at Pensacon this afternoon, then you are about to get surprised, because this evening, 6:15ish, 6:30ish, we are going to be getting a photo op with Ahsoka Tano herself, Ashley Eckstein. We're very excited about that. We're also tomorrow going to be going to a Star Wars Q&A with John Morton, Bob Spiker, Stephen Constantino, Julius LaFleur, Nick Malley, and Dickie Beer. And these are all people that had really cool impact on Star Wars. Some of them played some obscure characters. Some of them played Boba Fett's, like stunt people and that type of stuff, or stand-ins. Some of them were involved in crafting the characters and the creatures in the Mos Eisley Cantina on Tatooine, and they're going to be doing a Q&A. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff. Tomorrow we're going to be going to the Ashley Eckstein panel, actually, which is Voicing Your Dreams, where Ashley's going to be joined by Brett Iwan, who's the voice of Mickey Mouse officially right now. He's the official voice of Mickey Mouse.
The new one?
Yeah.
I love those shorts.
They're going to be doing a panel called Voicing Your Dreams, where they get to talk about how they turn their childhood ambitions and their dreams to be involved in animation and be involved in Star Wars and Mickey and all that kind of stuff into reality. And so it's going to have lots of stories and fun and inspiration. And we are lobbying heavily for a few interviews with some of these people. So if you're listening to this show right now and you have any influence, which
no, you don't.
Probably don't. Then we would appreciate a little kind word. We're working on that with their press people right now. So that's pretty much going to do it for the banner. We should probably talk a little bit about Bad Batch. I think this was a fun episode.
It was.
Yeah, and BB Nate earlier called it a filler, and I wanted to punch him in the nose. Not literally. I would never punch my son in the nose. All right? So
especially not right now.
Don't call social services. Okay. But yeah, if you joined us Thursday evening for the Bad Batch pregame with Around the Galaxy on Twitter Spaces, which is a lot of fun for an hour, and you get to be a part of it. It's super fun. You need to check it out. Anyway, if you were there last night, you weren't surprised at all by most of the developments in Cornered, because our amazing Twitter family predicted a supply run, the appearance of Fennec Shand, and even Hunter's little ride on a speeder bike. But really, having predicted all that, what does all of that mean?
Bulky religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
If you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
Like people like are listening and then they can like raise their hand or something.
Yeah, that's basically the way that Twitter Spaces works. It's very similar to Clubhouse. So you've got this Spaces. It's an audio chat.
Okay.
Room. And so you've got a couple, for each segment we had in this, we had Pete from Around the Galaxy and myself, and we would talk about a topic, and then people can request to participate in the conversation. And so we see that their request is there. That gives us the opportunity to sort of filter out if we see, people that we may not want to bring up because of whatever reason. And we haven't had that problem. It's been awesome. But we can bring them up. And so we encourage people to come up and then they get to participate in the conversation for a little bit. We had, Rick Villanueva on there. JG was on there yesterday.
Awesome.
Cam was on there. A bunch of really awesome.
That's really cool.
People were participating in the conversation. And then we sort of would reset the room every 15 minutes and shift to a new topic. And when we shift to that new topic, we sort of take everybody off of the vocals until Pete and I have talked about it, and then invite people to come back in.
That's cool.
So it's a really fun way to get involved in a conversation. And they were all amazing.
On point.
Last night. They predicted everything that happened in that last episode. So it was a lot of fun. Now, we didn't predict where they would go on the supply run, just that they would go on the supply run. Did your guys' ears perk up when they said Pantora? Did you guys remember that from the Clone Wars?
I've definitely heard that.
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember from what.
Yeah, it's in the Clone Wars. It's there's that episode where Anakin and Obi-Wan are sent to the Pantoran moon. It's like a snow ice planet, super cold.
Oh,
and they're sent there to kind of help the Pantorans eliminate this.
They're like the blue people.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
I knew I recognized those people, but I thought it was an ice planet.
Yeah. So anyway, they've got these. There's these in the Clone Wars. There's these destructive creatures or whatever is what they're being told. And in the end, we find out that they're sentient beings and they were being oppressed by this bad ruler of Pantora, and he gets kind of removed from power and a new person is brought in on that. So yeah, Pantorans are a big deal.
Okay. Very cool.
In this, with that, Nathan, what did you think about sort of the ability to, the idea of going on a supply run or whatever?
I think that it feels a lot like Rebels in the first couple seasons. I mean, the first couple seasons really were a bunch of supply runs and all that stuff. So it kind of went back to Dave Filoni's roots, at least is what it felt like. It was fun. I think it was a great setting for this episode. Was
anybody else waiting for them to go on a melee run?
I was wanting a melee run.
Yeah, I saw him walking through the markets, and I'm like, I'm waiting for them to throw a little melee run in there for us to look at.
We did get something. We'll talk about that in a second. That has a lot of Rebels connections to it. But anyway, yeah. So what we learned really early on in this episode is that the Bad Batch is completely unprepared to function as civilians.
Yeah, they're soldiers.
They're soldiers, and they land in a very classic, almost Tatooine-esque landing bay.
Right,
and here comes this Ugnaught that comes out. It wasn't Ugnaught.
No, it was like 9-Num.
Oh, okay, yeah. I guess
Pancake face.
Yeah, okay.
Pancake face.
I don't remember the species though.
The pug
Celestian.
of Star Wars.
It's a Celestian. That's it.
All right. I was totally off on that. I just had I had Queel in my mind the whole time with that. Anyway, they get out there and he wants to scan the ship and report who's just landed, and Wrecker's like, "Yeah, you don't want to do that, do you?" And he's like, "Oh, okay, I can overlook it." And they start walking away, and he's like, "Dude, what are you doing?" They had no clue he was wanting them to grease him a little bit, which is what that's called, giving him a little bit of credit.
Yeah.
With that was really fun, and that sort of begins the process of me thinking. Had you thought about that before, BB Nate? What is it like to be, in this case, farmed instead of born, and raised for a specific purpose, only to have that purpose turned upside down, which is what the Bad Batch is facing?
Yeah, I'm sure it's jarring for them, and I mean, you can even look at some people might be like, well, it's different for Omega because she's a kid and she hadn't, kind of solidified in the war aspect, but she was stuck on Kamino for her whole life, so she has no idea what to do either. And so I think that them transferring to civilians, I mean, it's hard and it makes sense because that's not what they were made for.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to see, like we see it that for a Wrecker at least. It's kind of like he's almost having withdrawals. Like he wants to fight someone. He wants
I need to bash some heads in.
He needs to punch something, right? So, I mean, I don't think that's really happening with the rest of the group as much, but it is a different environment for them for sure. And it's neat to see soldiers learning how to function as people again, because they are people in this, but they've not been taught that.
Right. And we've seen, Cut deserted, but we didn't see the transition to civilian life with him. We know Rex and Wolf and Gregor are going to do that, but when we pick up on their story, they've already been civilians for 15 years or 20 years or whatever. We're seeing with the Bad Batch that process, which has been really interesting. You brought up Omega. I'm just going to call her Omega going forward with this. And the differences that she's had on that. But what I noticed in this was that she's super trusting of Fennec. We'll talk about her in a second, Fennec Shand. But she's super trusting right away. And it struck me that she's never been in a position where she didn't have to trust somebody. Or she had to question whether or not somebody was trustworthy with that. How scary would this be, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I can't really think of it from her perspective because I've obviously never been in that position.
Stranger danger.
Right. I mean, that's what we're taught from a young age, stranger danger. But, I mean, if you're a little kid and you've lost your parents in this case, and someone comes up and is like, "Oh, are you lost? I'll help you." Well, your immediate thought is like, I'm gonna listen to him. But like also coming from like Hunter's perspective, or even like a parental guardian perspective, that's terrifying. I mean, Hunter just turned around for 30 seconds or so, and next thing he knew, Omega was gone.
Yeah, and as a parent,
that's
those
terrifying.
moments are absolutely like horrifying. And I grew up in the early, I was a little child in the early 80s when this child kidnapping thing seemed to be getting a lot of press. There was a boy that literally walked, it was 10 seconds is what they say. He was in a grocery store or a Walmart or something like that with his mom, and he walked away for 10 seconds around the corner and he just disappeared. And they searched for him for years and finally found it that he was killed and murdered by some psychopath and all of this. And so parents were really, really careful to teach, you can't walk away, you can't do it.
Stranger danger.
When you guys were little and you were missing just for a few seconds, like you went around the corner kind of thing, the terror would kick in. And I really related to Hunter in that moment when he looks back and he can't find Omega. And that was really, really scary with that. You brought it up a minute, or brought up the connection to Rebels. We got Loth Cat.
Yeah,
we can't.
Tooth Cat.
And we had a connection to
Resistance.
The little
talk
dog
about that.
thing. The little dog things. I don't know what they're called, but
What was his? It was the one that Niku
Tora had. Tora.
Yeah, no, it was Tora's dog.
Oh, it was
thing.
Tora.
I don't remember the name.
Dog. I don't know. It's a weird creature, but that was really cool to see that it still exists.
Yeah,
they're kind
I
of
like
still
when they do
mentioning that resistance was a thing.
They're bringing it in. Yeah, that was really, really cool. What do you guys think about Echo's new disguise? So they go out to find that, and Hunter's dressed in civilian clothes, but you can't really do that with Echo because of all this technical alterations that was forced on them. But in the end, you guys ready for it? They came in really handy. With that was my dad pun for this episode. Nate, what do you think? Do you think that this idea of him posing as a droid is going to become kind of a running gag in the story going forward?
I hope so. I mean, I've always said that Echo is my favorite character in this group, and so it's exciting to see him kind of be a little bit more, because he's not really enhanced like they are. I mean, he's technologically enhanced in some ways, but it was really cool to see that whole storyline and the whole droid thing. And I loved how he's like, I'm worth more than 2,000 credits.
He was offended at the amount that Hunter was going to sell him for with it. And then even what he got sold for at 3,000 credits, he was later on, makes a comment about it. It was cool because Echo was put in charge of these droids that end up playing a really significant role in this. Some would consider this coincidence. Sam, is this kind of stuff happening in Star Wars coincidence, or is this the Force?
I think it's the Force. It's destiny or whatever. So this is I'm gonna this is weird, but I've been researching like this Star Wars RPG game for a while now. And so now when I'm like watching shows and stuff, I think like, how would I play this out in a story, or how would this play out in the story? And in the Star Wars RPG, there's something called destiny points, light side and dark side points, right? And so if you're a player, you can flip a light side point to have something beneficial like destiny happen in the game. And in this case, I would feel like flipping that point would be there's these maintenance droids all of a sudden.
Yeah, it reminds me, there's one scene in The Force Awakens that makes me always think of the Force's
the Happabore.
The Happabore, exactly. So finally Finn is on Jakku. He thinks that Poe is dead. He's trying to just get to survive, and he's and everything. And he goes into and he starts drinking out of the trough for the Happabore. The Happabore is right there. It's disgusting and all this stuff. And suddenly the Happabore just bumps him, and it causes Finn to look over, and then he sees BB-8 and he sees Rey and what's going on. And without that bump, does that moment ever happen? And those are the types of moments that make me think in Star Wars land, in the universe there, of coincidence being the Force actually orchestrating things. And honestly, we see that in our own lives.
Absolutely.
And we, come from a perspective of Christianity, where we're people of faith. There is, honestly, there is no Hebrew word. Hebrew is the way that the first third of our, or 2/3 of our Bible, the language it was written in, the foundation of our faith. There is no Hebrew word for coincidence. You cannot have coincidence in the Hebrew mind, in the biblical mindset. It's God is orchestrating things. And sometimes those little moments are big moments. And that's exactly what I love to see. I could not talk about that. All right. Well, we've got to talk about Fennec Shand.
That was cool.
We knew she was coming at some point in the show. We predicted last night on the Twitter Spaces that Fennec was coming in this. But what's fun about this experience with Fennec Shand is this is long before she's the legend that we get in The Mandalorian. She's really awesome, but it's early in her career. But one thing I noticed in this was how devious she was in her interactions with Omega. I mean, she's deceptive.
She really likes hunting kids too.
Yeah,
she's got a problem.
She gets those bounties, doesn't she? She was manipulative. Like she's lying and about the fruit that she bumps into this person carrying fruit and steals the fruit to give to Omega to help manipulate Omega into trusting her. And at the same time, she says things like, it's
okay to break the rules.
Yeah, it's okay to break the rules and lie and stuff like that. I never really sensed that Omega's life was in danger with Fennec.
No.
But I did know, it was clear that Omega was in danger.
Right. Like she was going to be taken.
Yeah. What did you also think? This kind of goes back to a little bit about what we talked about last week on the dark nature of this show, at least last episode specifically, and even some of the other episodes. She was really willing to kill without remorse. She's throwing people off of speeders from 1,000 feet above the planet's surface.
Shooting guards.
The end result is they're dead. You know that, right?
Yeah,
she bashes that guy's head and then throws him off, and he falls to his death. She's shooting straight through the chest of those Pantoran security officers on that. Does this continue to indicate that Lucasfilm, Dave Filoni, and the creators of this series don't see this as being a new reset of a new series that is going to the viewers are aging with it, but rather it's a continuation of the Clone Wars, and they anticipate that the vast majority of their viewers are picking up from where they were at the end of Clone Wars, and they've already kind of matured with that show.
Yeah, I think that this whole series has a more mature theme to it. I think that's what they're going for. It could be that since it is Clone Wars-esque, they expect that audience to already have matured. Or it could just be that Lucasfilm Animation is kind of transitioning to a bit more of a mature style. I'm not saying they're going to go full on like adult, like DC Animation does, but they might be like transitioning it to like. So like you've got Resistance, which is for like kids, and then you've got this, which is for more mature audiences.
Yeah, and we do know there are other series that are coming in the future. Isn't there a Droids?
That one will probably be for kids.
Exactly,
yeah.
and so
but
I
I'll
think
still watch it.
Oh yeah, no, I think we're going to watch all of that. But I do think
we have that Visions,
and that's going to be anime though.
Yes.
That's true.
Which I'm excited for.
Yeah, I'm excited about all this, but here's the point I'm trying to make. You bring up Resistance. Resistance skewed BB-8. It's skewed towards a very young audience. It was designed to be kiddie and campy and fun like that, and it was criticized for that. Do you think that Lucasfilm, Dave Filoni, and the team have decided that wasn't a direction that they want to go with this because of how Resistance was received?
No, I really don't. I think that Resistance is what it was supposed to be. It accomplished what it was wanting to, and it had its dark moments, of course, with Tam and the Empire, First Order, and all that stuff. And so I do think that
it had dark moments, but it didn't have violent moments like these.
No. I'm not sure what they're planning on doing. It's, of course, up to Dave Filoni now that he's has the title of the position he's been doing.
Has had the title sit for a year.
I mean, that was in the press release. Like, they're like, he's been already doing the work, so we're just giving him the title.
Yeah. Well, no, he's had the title for a year. They officially said, no, they had the title for a year. We just forgot. You didn't put it up on the website till this week.
Wow.
Okay, great job, Lucasfilm. So I think that Resistance did what it was going to do, and it executed it well. I think that overall Resistance was a good show. I think that the Bad Batch is starting to kind of move into this territory because the world they're in now is dark. The world they're in now is violent because we have Order 66 that was just executed. We have these clone troopers. I mean,
the transition from
exactly.
the Republic to the Empire.
So it's really a kind of different feeling, than Clone Wars and Rebels. So
yeah, it is starting to separate itself to some extent. I mean, it feels and looks a lot like Clone Wars. I mean, just like Clone Wars. But the story itself is separating itself. It's moving. We were talking about this on Twitter Spaces last night. Somebody made a really good point. I wish I could remember who it was. I can't claim it, so that's all. I'm just not going to take this point as myself. Someone else said this. We're in a very dark period in the story because it's not like you're going to move to here's the resolution of the galactic or the Clone Wars, or here's the resolution of the Galactic Civil War, and we're moving towards that. No, we're moving from the end of Revenge of the Sith to complete tyranny. That causes rebellion, and that's the period that we're in. It's not going to get better; it's going to get worse. And so this story is going to have to get darker and more intense, I think, going forward on that. Now, we talked a lot about what happens in this episode, but I want to stop before we move on to the next segment. I want to talk about why these things happened in this. Why is Omega being hunted?
Well, the Kaminoans need her, I think. So they were talking about that at the end of the last episode. I think they need Omega because she's this super clone.
Well, they didn't actually say she was the clone host.
No.
With that, we've just made that assumption. Yeah. There's some that believe that they could utilize Crosshair.
Yes.
In this for it. Could it be someone else, BB-8, that's trying to hunt down Omega because they know what's going on with Omega? And who could that possibly be?
I'm not sure if it's anybody but the Kaminoans, because I really think that because of how strict they were with her, they wouldn't allow her to go to certain wings of the place. The only place that she was at, they never let her go off planet. I mean, she was restricted to the point of almost being a prisoner in her own home. So I think that because of what we saw, how strict they were, I think it's the Kaminoans trying to hunt her.
Sam, do you think it could be the Empire that's sent out the bounty hunters on that, or does that seem too early on in this story for the Empire to start utilizing bounty hunters?
Yeah, I don't think the Empire's at that point yet. I don't think they have that pull. I don't think they have the need for Omega. They've got Crosshair. That's all they want right now. Tarkin is already pretty apprehensive towards clones. They're not going to go and spend Empire resources on getting another one.
We've talked about it on this show before. I am becoming more and more convinced, at least in my head, until it doesn't happen, which that often happens that way, that Boba Fett is going to be a part of this series at some point. And there's more of the reasons than Dave Filoni wanted to tell more of his story in the Clone Wars and didn't get a chance to. It has to do with he's connected to
cloning,
Kamino and to cloning. And is it possible that he knows about Omega from his connections to the Kaminoans and to Camino and what's going on there. And could it be that he's the one that sends Fennec? She's at the end of this episode, she's reporting to someone else. Now, we've made the assumption that Boba Fett and Fennec Shand don't connect with each other until Fennec's life is saved by Boba Fett on Tatooine in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But we've never heard that that's their first meeting. Maybe Boba Fett saves Fennec Shand's life on Tatooine because he knows who Fennec Shand is. They've got a relationship going back, and he's the one with the Bounty Hunter Guild. We know she's a bounty hunter. They said it flat out in this.
Yeah.
She's not an assassin yet. That's what we see in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
She's a bounty hunter at this point. Could the head of the Bounty Hunter Guild at this point, Boba Fett, could he be the one that's sending her out?
Do we know that he's at this height yet?
It happens. I think it happens in the Clone Wars, or it was supposed to happen in the Clone Wars, that he becomes the leader of the Bounty Hunter Guild.
Okay.
At this point. Do you feel like this is actually, she's at the end of this communicating with Boba Fett, Sam?
I think it's a possibility for sure. It would be, I think they do need to flesh out his story a bit as to what the heck he's been doing between Clone Wars and episode 6 or 5. Because that's a large chunk of time where we have no idea what he's been up to. And, this explaining how he became such a ruthless, reputable bounty hunter would be smart, in my opinion.
Maybe, Nate, do you think that Fennec Shand was actually reporting to Boba Fett?
It's difficult to say this early on. I honestly don't think so. But of course, it's Dave Filoni, and of course, Dave Filoni can do whatever he wants. So if he wants to,
Disney, and if Disney wants people to watch the Book of Boba Fett, then building a backstory on the connection between Fennec Shand and Boba Fett in this series,
I didn't think of that.
Could set that series up.
And just to mention before we move on, we had absolutely no crosshair in this episode.
Yeah, I did notice that.
I had not even thought about that. We didn't go to Camino. We didn't go to the Empire at all.
Which is sad because I really like that side plot.
Yeah, Crosshair's cool. They need to deal more with him now.
Yeah, obviously they're going to. But the biggest takeaway from Cornered is that we're only through episode 4 of 16.
Holy cow.
In season 1. And everything from the trailer has been shown except the battle. That includes Captain Rex.
Dang.
And that means that from this point forward, we are headed into the unknown, which is very exciting. We will not be able to predict on Twitter Spaces what's happening.
Do you think we see Fennec again?
I guarantee
yes.
we see Fennec again. Sam, what do you got going this week?
Well, Eternals is set to release later this year, and if you're anything like us, you're probably very confused by this film. I still am after researching it. So we're going to go through everything we know about this movie and the Eternals coming up next.
Yeah, and that's coming up after these ads specifically chosen for you because our podcasting hosting service gives us free hosting in exchange for inserting the ads into the show. So
that's pretty
clear.
Yeah, clear.
Reason why. This is Tatooine Sons.
Hello, Tatooine Sons family.
Sup?
Wow, that was really fast.
I don't know if you're family, but
no,
part
you
of
are.
If you are listening to the show, you are our family.
Before I get back to the show, should I try to do this ad as fast as possible?
No,
like the radio ads?
Yeah, like the radio ads.
No.
Before we get back to the show, I just want to take a moment to say thank you for listening and putting up with all of our weirdness. It's fun talking about all of this, but even more fun because of all of your amazing feedback, telling us how much you enjoy listening. We haven't had a review in a good hot minute. Yeah, we need some. It's always awesome reading your comments and reviews. If you haven't had a chance to do it yet, we'd love to invite you to give us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Please?
Yes, please.
For Sam's birthday?
Yeah, it's my birthday.
Or whichever podcast app you use. It helps us learn more about you and what you love about the show so we can continue to bring the entertaining, family-friendly content you're looking for. Thank you. Let's get back to the show.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
All right, then, keep your secrets. You're coming to us. Is as the footsteps of doom.
There are many magic rings in this world, Bilbo Baggins, and none of them should be used
2-second thing on that trailer. So Sam, real quick, explain what we're talking about here.
I think it's just where like this series is taking place. It's finishing up his story essentially.
Yeah.
I don't know. His story's not finished. I think that's what that's implying. We've still got more Loki, possibly even outside.
Are we going to get some like parallel storyline where he's doing something in the Endgame finale that we didn't?
That'd be
know about?
weird. Or seeing the timeline after if Thanos wins.
Ooh, that would be cool.
That'd be cool with a destroyed New York City. Who knows? Maybe that's what it is. But I don't know. It's exciting. I loved that Miss Minute clip that came out.
I didn't get a chance to watch that. What was that?
It was. It just like.
All right, we're not even supposed to be talking about this, and we're going to end up taking up your whole segment, Sam. So explain to me what's going on. I am confused. I have no idea what the Eternals is about. So
I didn't either, and
you still really don't.
Yeah, it's really weird. I'll try and explain it to the best of my abilities, but so it was created in the 70s by Nathan. You'll know this name, Jack Kirby.
Makes sense why it's confusing.
I know that name. That's a huge name in comic books.
Humongous.
It was written before he left for DC to write New Gods. Apparently, New Gods and Eternals have a very similar feel and storyline.
Makes sense.
Nate, could you give us a short, quick little crash course on New Gods?
Crash course of New Gods is basically the New Gods, Darkseid, Steppenwolf, Desaad, Granny Goodness, all of them fighting the old gods, Zeus, Ares, Artemis, all of them, and kind of the origin of Darkseid and the New Gods and how they came to be from
kind of that,
New
like,
Genesis and Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm. So kind of that whole beginning or that flashback sequence in Snyder Cut.
Kind of.
Okay.
It happens more out in space on planets that we don't know, and there's a lot of mythological stuff and a bunch of weird storylines and supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, this is very similar to that in that it's very cosmic and supernatural and
it's a good way to put it.
Large things, not like Iron Man. So let's just I'll explain to y'all what the Eternals are before we get into the movie, so you kind of have a background of what we're going into.
Okay.
In the 1976, the Eternals #1 comic book focused on.
I'm older than the Eternals by a year.
Yes, you are old. The comic book focused on a race of humans engineered by the alien Celestials, like Ego, Star-Lord's dad.
Yeah,
the planet.
They were created by the Celestials to protect Earth. Of course, things did not go as planned, and life on Earth developed along different lines. So they're still the humans, but the Eternals still remained to protect the planet from the Deviants.
Which is Thanos and Loki at this point.
Kind of, yeah. They're kind of the Deviants. I didn't remember seeing anything specifically saying. Well, no, I think you're right. I think Thanos is
and Loki is, because I mean, on the trailers we see on the back of him, it literally in big orange letters says Deviant.
Oh, I didn't even make that connection. This is actually a different Deviant. Okay, he's right. I didn't make
confusing.
that connection. So the TVA Deviants are like time Deviants. These Deviants are basically they're Eternals, but they evolved slightly differently and they became evil.
So
they're a different kind of Deviant.
They're going to get us confused here in a little bit.
Yes,
okay.
I didn't even think about that. That's a good point.
I'm already confused.
Yeah, so they're celestial experiments that also did not quite evolve as expected.
Thank you, Jack Kirby.
It's weird, right? The
Eternals.
The Eternals are very long lived and advanced.
They're
like
eternal.
Yes. Well, almost. They prefer to stay in the shadows, and they deal more with like big stuff, kind of like Captain Marvel, letting humans solve their own problems, like what Captain Marvel did during the first 3 phases of Marvel. Then eventually a civil war broke out among the Eternals, and they gained the ability to store cosmic energy in their bodies and use it for all crazy stuff. They didn't have that before. They were just like basically long-lived superhumans, but now they can like channel the energy of the universe and stuff. It's really weird.
That is strange.
In the modern day, though, most Eternals just carry on private conflicts away from the eyes of the public, or just act as superheroes to obscure their real intent. So they kind of do what every superhero does and hide their identity. But they're basically
now I'm thinking
gods.
about the TV show that was on in the 90s called My Secret Identity.
That sounds like a 90s sitcom.
Oh, it was a really great comic book superhero sort of show.
Was it a
Never heard of
sitcom?
it.
My secret identity. Sorry.
Oh, wow.
So this is the old showing out of Dad right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. He's older than the Eternals. He's bringing up some obscure TV show.
And it's all in a day's work for Ultraman. That was the way
Ultraman?
That's the way they ended.
So they stole from DC?
I don't know. So
He's okay, whatever. Many years later, though, the Eternals story was picked back up by new writers once it was dropped by Jack Kirby and all these people. It kind of got picked up for like a few like miniseries and then dropped. They made a few changes, one of which was being the Eternals suffered from a collective amnesia about their origins and lived as conventional humans until circumstances forced them to remember their old lives. So basically, that's where we're kind of picking up here in the movie. These Eternals who have lived for thousands, if not millions of years at this point, have no memory about their origins or their missions and things like that.
And they don't think to be like, it's a little strange that I've lived this long and there's nothing that they can just think, this is weird.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they know about their abilities and they live long and stuff. That's why they might do like superhero work, but they don't know where they get them from or why they have these abilities.
So they're not familiar with their own origins. No. They just know that they have supernatural
pretty
abilities.
Much, right. So what are your thoughts on that whole premise there, Dad? Like these celestial experiments put on Earth to protect humanity, but they forgot about their mission. Does that intrigue you, that whole concept there? Because it's unlike anything we've seen in Marvel before. I mean, it's such a unique concept.
Yeah, especially when you say that were put on Earth to protect humanity and they've forgotten that purpose, because that helps explain to me a big question I have about this entire premise of bringing the Eternals in at this point, because it's post Endgame.
Right.
If there was ever a time for a group of supernatural beings to rise up that had a mission of protecting humanity, they probably missed that at this point. So it intrigues me, but it also makes me wonder what it is that's going to cause them to actually step up now. So
yeah, I've been curious about that too. Nate, we kind of discussed this a bit, but are there similar concepts to this in the DC universe?
I mean, of course, New Gods is a similar feel, but the concepts of the characters, not particularly, not that I can think of. I mean, you can go with Superboy Prime, who is Superboy on Earth Prime, who was born with these powers, but didn't quite know what to do with them, didn't really know why they had the powers. And he actually lives on our Earth, like this Earth. And of course keeps his power a secret, but this is a different concept from what they're doing. But the really interesting part that they add to that is that he can read the comic books that are put out or before the storylines happen.
That's weird.
So he can travel and mess everything up. He's a bad guy. So it's really strange
I don't think
concept.
I'll be bringing that up in this one. The premise of the film, this is kind of like the log line, is the Eternals, who have lived on planet Earth in secret for the last 7,000 years, renew their conflict with the Deviants, not the kind you're thinking of, Nate, sometime after the missing human population returns from the blip. Doesn't really give us a lot to work with.
Well, you don't expect them to give us much.
No. Do you guys think that maybe some of the people who came back were deviants and them coming back reignited their deviant side, probably brought them their memories back? Or what do you think the catalyst for such a like cosmic battle could be?
I don't know. It's an interesting question. Like we said, this is something that Marvel hasn't gone into before. I mean, it's really all the time been kind of surface. I mean, you have these people, they have abilities or suits, and they just fight the bad guys. In this, it's really going into these people don't know their mission. They have superpowers. They don't know why. They're talking about the blip. They're talking about this civil war, and they don't know the missions that they're sent there for. And that's really nothing we've seen before.
These large cosmic beings and battles. The closest thing we've had to that is almost Thor, or even Ego and Star-Lord. That's like the closest thing we've gotten. But everything else you said, it is pretty basic stuff. What about you, Dad?
Well, yeah, with Iron Man, that was the first enhanced or superhero character in the Marvel. In this version of the Earth, that's the first time we see it. And then you add in Cap, you add in Hulk, but they're all sort of these moments. We don't have the X-Men yet, so you don't have this mutation type situation that's taking place with a large population of the people. You just have this small group, which is the Avengers. And I guess in the end, you bring in Wakanda and you bring in all these other characters and suddenly you've got this massive army at the end of Endgame.
Right.
But it's not the same as this idea of this cosmic battle that's been going on for thousands of years and maybe even, with the
Since
title.
the dawn of humanity.
Yeah, with Eternals, the idea being this is something that's bigger. It feels to me, like you were saying a little bit earlier, more like the DC stuff with Darkseid and Granny Goodness and
all of that
and
the creation of the universe and all that, how it works. So,
and this and like you said, Sam, and I think you confirmed, Nate, Kirby did both of those. So you're going to find a lot of the similarities.
Yeah, as I was writing this and researching it, I got very DC feels. This feels like, because DC talks about the gods and this godly battle. You've got Superman and Wonder Woman and Darkseid.
DC is a lot about mythology.
Right.
So.
And as I was reading and learning about this, it was like, this feels very DC, these like mythological battles.
Yeah.
So now let's go through and talk about all the information or all the Eternals in the movie and who's playing them. And we're going to run through this real fast because there's actually quite a lot of them. You've got Gemma Chan as Cersei. This is the description of her character. Though she reportedly masquerades as a museum curator, she is really an Eternal with the ability to manipulate matter. That's a powerful ability. Angelina Jolie, which that's a big
that's a
actor
huge
there.
name.
Also appears as Thena, a warrior who uses her abilities with cosmic energy to fashion weapons, like that sword we saw in the
sneak peek or whatever.
From the few glimpses that Marvel has offered of the film so far, we're inclined to believe that she'll be in full possession of her memories and talents. If the film uses the memory loss idea, it may be her job to get the others ready for battle against the Deviants, because she's the only one who remembers what's going on. Or as some reports note, she is in exile from the main Eternal group. She could serve as an antagonistic function.
Oh, that's cool.
Maybe, or bad and then turns good.
Badish.
Loki-esque in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Richard Madden is Icarus, a tactical genius, possibly millions of years old.
Okay.
Kumail Nanjiani, I believe, as Kingo, a Bollywood star whose fame-seeking life suggests he may not be aware that he's an Eternal. Lauren Ridloff as a super fast scout Makari.
Okay.
Brian Tyree Henry as Phastos, an inventor with the tendency to break the Eternals' non-intervention edict. Barry... Oh, man.
That's Keegan.
Keegan as Droog, whose ability to manipulate minds and distance from others suggests he may also be another antagonist.
Okay.
Leah McHugh as Sprite, an illusion-generating Eternal who only looks 12 years old and may be the source of any potential memory loss among the group.
Oh, wow. That's curious.
Don Lee as Gilgamesh, who can project an exoskeleton and whose name conjures up a very direct connection to the ancient human myths.
That gets me excited.
You're going to have to explain that a bit because I tried...
Okay, so the Gilgamesh myth goes all the way back to ancient... Like
Babylon and stuff, right?
The Chaldees, Babylonian time. It's a huge epic that has lots of creation myth, flood myth, parallels in some ways, the biblical narrative, but in other ways it's different. So, very, very interesting.
Very cool.
Wow.
So they're bringing in, what's interesting is in the article I got most of this information from, which the notes will, or the link will be in the notes. I basically took all this information from Rotten Tomatoes. They talked about how, you've got Icarus and Gilgamesh, and I think there was one more, these names that have been around in mythology for years.
Yeah,
and years
I noticed
and years.
that with Icarus as well.
There's ideas that these characters could have been around with humanity for, centuries now.
I mean, what if the Icarus character in this is the Icarus of mythology, and Gilgamesh is the Gilgamesh of mythology.
And they talked about how this could open up the ability to go back thousands of years in time and have a story focusing on these old
I would
characters.
love
Like
for the Gilgamesh
that
epic to become an MCU movie.
Yeah, something to that effect. Kind of like Thor.
Yeah.
You know, that whole concept.
Oh my gosh.
So there's a real avenue for them to...
This is very DC-esque.
Yes, I thought that. Then we got a couple more Eternals. Selma Hayek.
Salma. It's so curious that you can't even pronounce that name because you don't know who this is. Salma Hayek was a like mega star. For a long time. So
as Ajak, the leader of the Eternals, who can also speak with the Celestials, which is big. This suggests that some of Kirby's most out there character designs may be featured in the film.
Come on. It's a fantastic artist. I want to see some of his crazy.
Yeah.
He's come up with so many crazy concepts and just.
Oh, I can't wait.
I hope we get to see some crazy Celestials. And then Kit Harington plays Dane Whitman, a human who may or may not become Marvel Comics Black Knight, different than the Dark Knight, over the course of the film. There's very big names and a lot of them. Excuse me. This is about as many characters as an Avengers film at this point. Just for fun, starting off with, which character sounds the most interesting to you? Dad, I think
Gilgamesh.
I know.
Absolutely.
100%. Nate, what about you?
Probably the Ajak character. Because I just want to see the Celestials. I want to see the strange concepts. I want to see the weird characters. I want weird to be in Marvel.
Kind of like those flashbacks we got in Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff where they talked about the Celestials.
Yeah.
Which this film is basically just the next.
I'm going to have to go back and watch Guardians of the Galaxy too.
Yeah.
Such a good
So
movie.
speaking of that, though, do you guys think that this film is going to be like the Guardians of the Galaxy for the future of the MCU? It brought in this whole brand new group of characters and is opening up the whole the story to a whole new universe, bringing in like Infinity Stones.
I think it may be important to the MCU, but I really don't feel like it's going to be the Guardians of the Galaxy. The Guardians of the Galaxy had a charm and the feeling to it that really solidified the formula of Marvel, really solidified how Marvel does this stuff, and consisting to the story of the group and how it could persist to the main story. With Guardians, we had them introduce Infinity Stones
and Celestials,
which was important. This, it feels like they're kind of expanding on the idea of the Celestials, which is important, but I don't think it'll have the same impact to the MCU itself, both on filmmaking and story-wise, as we think. So,
what about you, Dad?
Yeah, I think it's going to open up a whole new universe for Marvel. I think that if you have the opportunity, I mean, the idea of being able to go back and tell Icarus myths and the Gilgamesh myth and a lot of the ancient mythology, Beowulf, they could bring that in. You know, Hercules is a Marvel character.
Yeah.
So, you know, you could bring him into this and do some of that fantastic mythology
in a Marvel
Cinematic Universe film. I would be really excited about that.
I think that could be really cool. It definitely gives them room to build more stories. They generally do focus on modern times. I mean, they had Captain Marvel, which was in like what the 80s, 70s, or 80s.
Late 80s, early 90s.
And then you had, obviously Captain America, but they don't really go back hundreds or even thousands of years like this could suggest. So it could really bring a whole new feel to the MCU. The film is being directed by the now Oscar-winning director Chloe Zhao.
Yeah, from Nomadland.
Yeah, I mean, ran away
it did huge. And the reason why they wanted her is because she uses landscapes to her advantage a lot, and we noticed that. I noticed that in the sizzle reel, a lot of it was very like open landscapes.
The cinematography was great.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not going to be doing a lot of CGI from what I understand.
No, and the cinematographer has done a ton of Marvel stuff, so it will feel like a Marvel movie for sure. It is set to release November 5th, 2021, almost exactly a year since it was delayed, November 26th, 2020.
November 6th, you mean?
Yes, November. I thought I said 6th.
You said 26th.
Oh, my apologies. November 6th. Marvel's Eternals promises to give us a very different MCU movie, ushering us into a new phase for the Marvel Universe. Be sure to go to the theater.
If you feel comfortable.
Yes.
Which, but if you do, just go.
Yes, please go to the theaters. November 5th to watch the film. But Nate, Take it away. Stage is yours.
So this week we had a lot of DC news, but the biggest one, in my opinion, was the fantastic Batman: The Long Halloween Part 2 trailer, which was also a surprise. And how about we just break it down and see what it's like?
Okay. Oh, and we'll do that. That's coming after these ads specifically chosen for you because money makes the world go round. This is Tatooine Sons. Speaking, we've been talking about superheroes. We
have?
Yeah. And,
that's normally usual.
Well, yeah, we talk about a lot of superheroes. Are Jedi superheroes?
No, they're space wizards.
Okay.
But they don't wear hats.
But that's for another
they're
conversation.
Space sorcerers.
We want you to be able to be a superhero, and it's really easy to do. You know how many times we spend like $1.30 on something every day that has absolutely no purpose whatsoever? With it, what if you could change a life and become a superhero to a child? That's what you can do through One Child. $39 a month will bring them food, medicine, education, social development, and most importantly, you give them hope. They wake up in the morning and they believe that there's a purpose for their life, that they can make things better, and you get to actually be a part of that. And better than that, it's not just you're sending money to some kid across the country, across the ocean or whatever. You actually get to build a relationship with that child and be a part of their life, even be it long after they've grown up if you want. So, if you're interested in that, please check out the link, for One Child in the show notes. See how you can become a child champion. I'll even make a superhero shirt for you if you do it. And it'll be like CC with like a superhero like logo. We should do that. Anyway, please check it out. And, we'll start talking about the show here in just a second.
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah, I can fly.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
The people in this room, which one is A, wearing a spangly outfit, and B, not of use?
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
Batman has no limits.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Ultraman.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you want to know something interesting about that. So, the character, he was a teenage, like high school kid that got superpowers, and he had there was a professor that was like coaching him, and, like all this other stuff.
Are we sure this isn't a sitcom?
It's sort of a comedic feel, but it wasn't. It was played by Jerry. The kid, Ultraman, was played by Jerry O'Connell.
Oh.
Jerry O'Connell plays Georgie, the adult version of Georgie in The Big Bang Theory.
Oh,
really?
That's
really?
him. Yep.
Did he look like Georgie when he was a teenager?
He looked just like it. He looked just like Georgie from Young Sheldon. So, all right. I think it's your turn, BB Nate.
It is my turn. So let's just get going.
Well, then go.
So,
what are you waiting for?
The beginning of the trailer, Batman and Catwoman are in a relationship, I guess.
Is that in the comics?
Yes.
They get married in the comics.
Yeah,
well,
I know.
okay. Well, consisting to this, yes, the relationship does start in this. So, that's exciting. That
Wait. So, the relationship that leads to them getting married in the comics begins in The Long Halloween?
There's so many different canons. You can say yes, but you can also say that it started in a completely different comic. So, if you want to believe that, sure. It's so confusing.
As if DC needed more complicated.
of course.
It's just the multiverse.
It is. It's just the multiverse. And then we see Scarecrow in a cool fear world.
Yeah,
that was really awesome.
Really cool. I always love the concept of Scarecrow. He's such a cool character. Mm-hmm. Usually his character design.
Who's the other dude with him?
The other dude with him?
The little short one with the man.
That comes later.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, never mind. You were moving on. So I was just gonna say, I was at Books A Million the other day.
Okay.
And I saw a
Bam.
That's
what they call themselves.
Okay. They had this like a DC multiverse figure or whatever.
Ooh.
And it was Scarecrow. I don't know
From
which.
Last Night on Earth.
Yeah, he had like the weird like red balloon over his
he
head
doesn't have
and
legs.
stuff. Yeah, it was
He
really
rides
cool
on the
looking.
back of Bane
Yeah.
constantly and
It
has
looked-
like giant fingernails that are syringes.
Yeah.
It's a great comic
It was really
series.
cool.
DC is twisted.
It's cool
DC
though.
is strange, and that's Scott Snyder's brain. So
That man needs to go to therapy.
going on, we have the Holiday Killer. Looks like he's starting to become more confident with his victims, and he's ramping up his body count with how many victims he has, specifically in the crime family. We learned that. And Harvey is giving into the two-faced side a little bit more with making
coin.
deals, and he's starting to flip coins.
So he's starting to
and
he's compromising.
he is
in this trailer.
because I mean we saw in the first trailer he's talking about the decision of the money and what he does with it with Batman. And
Let's leave it to a coin toss.
Twin
coin
cost.
I do that way too often.
Look, this could just be trailer misdirection, but it looks like Thomas Wayne was working with the Falcone family.
Yeah,
which-
they show the death of Batman's Bruce Wayne's parents.
It's a Batman movie. What do you expect?
Wow.
No, I understand
gotta
that,
have
but
an origin.
connecting it to the Long Halloween.
It consists really well because the Long Halloween usually in the main canon takes place in the second year of Batman's career.
Okay.
So it's really early on, the second or third year at least. So in the main canon, at least for the Frank Miller and that kind of a universe, goes year one, Batman the Long Halloween, then Dark Knight Returns and all that stuff.
Okay.
And so that's really what the universe consists of. We have the classic cemetery scene. That makes sense to me and not you guys. It's a very classic sequence in the comics where that's first where Catwoman and Batman, start getting into a relationship and all that stuff. And so is
it anything like the cemetery scene from Mask of the Phantasm?
No.
Oh.
It's a funeral. So
it's a little different.
It's a little different. We see Mad Hatter with Scarecrow.
Oh, so that's the Mad Hatter. I wanted to make sure that was the
Mad
name.
Hatter's goal is to find his Alice, who in some versions is his sister, and some versions is just a random girl who he thinks is Alice.
And then some of them it's the lady married to Ralph Cramden.
What?
What?
Some of you people listening to this right now know exactly what I'm talking about. To the moon, Alice. All right, go. All right.
What?
Poison Ivy looks like she's going to be a big part of this movie, but
Is
the whole
that-
rogues gallery
Is that shark guy from the Suicide Squad going to be there?
No, he's not part of the rogues gallery.
He was fun though.
He is fun. King Shark is fun.
Has nothing to do with this story.
I saw a post about it, and I just wanted him in this.
Yeah.
Well-
Why is Poison Ivy a part of the first one? Did we see her in the trailer?
I
no.
think so. I'm sure she is.
I don't think she was as
in the
noticeable,
normal
though.
ones. In the comic, she's throughout the whole thing, really.
Okay.
So they might be just changing it up a little bit. And like I was saying, yes, Father, you raised your
You
hand.
keep using this phrase "rogues gallery."
Okay, so the Rogues Gallery it's basically what each superhero has for villains. The A-list villains, Joker,
Like who you think of when you think
Poison
of that.
Ivy, all that kind of stuff.
So
Yes.
like for Batman, it's those characters. For Superman, it's like Lex Luthor,
Flash, it's
Darkseid.
Captain Cold, and all that kind of stuff, and the Captain Boomerang, and all those people are the Rogues Gallery of these heroes.
Okay.
So it looks like the Rogues Gallery is taking form, which is exciting. That's kind of a good way. I feel like this movie is a great way to enter into the new.
Yeah,
DC
explain that
animated
because you and I were talking about that in the car the other day on the way to your
So-
therapy. You were talking about how this new animated storyline in DC animation starts with Superman Man of Tomorrow, and then it goes to Justice Society World War II, which
Yes.
we talked about on the last episode.
and that
with
feels
it.
more like a Barry Allen's
like origin story for him.
kind of.
And then you have this one, which really is like launching Batman. That's the next storyline here.
Yes, it feels like they're going through each character and giving them spotlight, which they did in the past universe before they kind of. Well, actually, no. The first movie where they the first movie was Justice League Flashpoint Paradox, so they all knew each other. Second movie was Justice League War, so
What I want to make sure we emphasize here is that if you haven't been a part of the into the DC animated universe, there's what happens in the comic book world is they would reset the storylines, right?
Yes.
And you would know they would tell you in advance that this new comic series is resetting.
Yes.
Right?
I mean, they've done that in the past 10 years.
Yeah, they've done that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, where they're like, okay, and that becomes a jumping on point for new fans to be able to start the storyline instead of being like, there's decades worth of stories that I don't understand.
Yeah.
If you haven't gotten into DC animation, I want you to know I'm not a DC comic book guy. I think you know that from listening to the show. But the DC animated stuff is really interesting.
It's really good.
It's the best superhero animation out there. I'm honest. I mean, just honestly, it's so much better than the Marvel stuff in the
by
animated
a long shot.
If you haven't gotten into it, this is your chance. You start with Superman, Man of Tomorrow.
Yes.
Then you go to Justice Society, World War II. And then this stuff coming out. Long Halloween Part 1 in June. Long Halloween Part 2.
In July.
Which they just announced
It's like they're trying to get him out. So
this is your chance to really get in. And a lot of this stuff's eventually going to end up on HBO Max, I'm assuming. Eventually.
Yes.
So even if you don't do it immediately, know that there's that starting point. Keep that in the back of your mind. If you've got HBO Max, you're going to be able to participate in this.
And so we see that looks like Joker is going to be a big part of both of these movies.
It's Batman.
He is a big part of the comic books as well. And it looks like they are taking heavy inspiration from the character design in the original Long Halloween comics.
Oh, that's cool.
Which, those comics have such a distinguished art style. People were a little bit worried with how this movie was going to translate that. And so it's really exciting to see kind of the longer chin, which is a characteristic of that character.
Yeah,
in
I mean,
that
even
series.
in any animated version of Joker, he's always got that long chin.
Yes. And we see Harvey gets a little makeover.
Is that what you call that? DC?
He had the acid thrown on his face,
yes,
right? That's what happens in the comics, right?
That's what happens in the comics, yes. So this comic specifically, we will see the court case of where that happens ties really, really important into the main story of the Long Halloween.
Okay.
And so the whole thing is centered around Harvey and all this stuff. And,
and for anybody that's not familiar, that maybe didn't listen to our episode a few weeks back when you broke down the first trailer, just very, very quickly, like 15 to 20 seconds, give us why is it called The Long Halloween? What's the premise?
So the premise is basically there was a murder that happened on Halloween, and it was a part of the Falcone family, crime family. And then there has been a murder every single holiday since then. And even like Mother's Day and Father's Day, those are considered holidays. And so it's a high amount of victims in this. And so it's really terrorizing the citizens of Gotham because they don't know if they're next or not.
And so then it's been labeled The Long Halloween.
And because it goes till the next Halloween.
Okay.
And so it's a year-long Halloween is basically what it is. Now, we have a lot of jumping around scenes after this, but there are a couple images I do want to point out. We see Sophia Falcone finding an unknown person. We can assume it's Joker, but that's very important to the later stories. And if they go into the sequel to Long Halloween, Dark Victory, it's super important. She's a super important character in that. And Solomon Grundy is going to be in this movie, rounding out the Rogues Gallery for Batman.
Who's Solomon Grundy again?
He is
Undead Hulk.
Yeah,
basically is the best way to put it.
He cannot be killed.
Okay.
Just never. And the only way to put him down is really electricity. So
what happens if you quote the little nursery rhyme? That doesn't do anything to him?
He quotes it constantly and it does nothing.
I'm totally lost, but you'll have to
So
see
you know
the
the Solomon Grundy nursery rhyme?
No.
Born on a Monday. It's
No,
like his life is in a week.
Okay.
And so he keeps quoting that constantly. That's really all he says.
All right.
And then we have the surprise appearance of Two-Face, kind of, finishing, and we see the whole Rogues Gallery, and it's a great shot. It's again a shot from the comics, which was really nice to see.
So you think they'll stay really true to the comic?
From what I'm seeing, it looks like it. I hope they do. There are a few twists I do want them to put in this that really, it makes the comic really, it makes it feel like a Batman story. It makes it different from any other really generic superhero story. And these twists make it dark and unexpected sadness, really.
Well, and I think that the first one is what rating?
PG-13.
And this one's rated R.
Yes, and it's for good reason because the ending of the comic is really, really dark.
Okay.
So
it seems to be like it's following the storyline of the Long Halloween.
It just
in the
judging
comics.
by the ratings. And I read the description, and it looked like it is following from that too.
Okay.
But if you're wanting to watch these movies and you don't know the storyline, do not read the description of the second trailer that they released with it. It completely spoils the first movie. So don't do that.
Okay.
That's good information.
Yes.
That's good.
So this movie will be releasing on July 27th of 2021, a little over a month after part 1. And this will be DC's second two-parter movie, which is exciting. And if you're wanting to hop on into the new DC animated universe, make sure to check Man of Tomorrow and
I would check it out. We watched it.
Yeah,
this
I want to
weekend.
watch. Excuse me. Wow,
Justice Society.
I want to watch Justice Society. Like what you're saying, I can actually feel like I can jump in on this now because I'm not like bogged down by all these movies I got to catch up.
Yes.
Right.
And of course, if you really want to, if you enjoy the DC animated movies, I highly recommend you check out their last universe, starting with Flashpoint Paradox and ending with Justice League Dark Apocalypse, where they're about 15 to 16
And
movies.
those are all on HBO Max.
They are.
Okay.
And so if you
you're bored on a weekend,
if you have nothing to do on a weekend, just binge those. Trust me, they are.
Since you're
worth it.
still, on bed rest, basically, your doctor won't let you go do a bunch of work. You should just go ahead and start up Flashpoint and do it all over again. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
Amazon revealed that each season of the new Lord of the Rings series will cost 4 times what it costs for a season of Game of Thrones. I'm going to level with y'all. I think they are banking too much in this series. I don't think it's going to be as popular as they expect it to be.
Somebody pointed out something really interesting, and they're like, what made the movies so good and what made Hobbit kind of lackluster was the use of CGI.
Yeah.
CGI is what made the original movies feel gritty and kind of real and a good fantasy. And Hobbit, I mean, you had the weird bucket scenes.
Yeah,
and
they
and
overused the CGI.
It fell off. And so I hope they don't do that. And so Bruce Timm, Matt Reeves, and J.J. Abrams are producing a new Batman animated series called Batman Caped Crusader, coming
Very
to
cool.
HBO Max and Cartoon Network. We're not sure how the release schedule is going to work out.
So
but
it's a kid's show.
maybe. And Cartoon Network.
Cartoon Network does a lot of shows that aren't kids shows.
Oh, well, like late night Cartoon Network.
Here's what I think. I think that they are trying to capture in a bottle the lightning of the animated
Original
animated.
I don't
Batman
think you
series.
can ever do that.
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Bruce Timm can do what
Bruce Timm
wants.
is
Fair enough.
pretty
And also, just as a little side note, Injustice is getting an animated
You were
movie.
super excited about
Super
this.
excited
Yeah,
about
that's
that.
awesome.
And it wasn't
I know.
even an official announcement. It was on the release of the bonus features for Long Halloween Part 2.
That there was going to be a trailer.
Yeah, so if you get the Blu-ray of Long Halloween Part 2, you'll be able to see a sneak peek.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Monday, just a few days from now, May 24th, is More Than Just Sam's birthday, which we talked about earlier. So, again, happy birthday.
Thanks.
Happy birthday.
It is Make Solo 2 happen.
Let's do it.
today. And it'll be the third year in a row where that hashtag is the design is to try to get it trending at Justice Restore the
Yes.
Snyderverse level with that. And we are going to be all on it all day.
Yes, sir. Yep.
We ask you to be on it. This is a film that deserves a sequel.
Absolutely.
I want to see Kira and Crimson Dawn and Maul and Han and all of that all over again. So be a part of that. Thank you guys so much for listening to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture
Good job,
podcast. Yeah, I called it a Star Wars podcast on Twitter Spaces. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, if you had a good time listening, it'd be awesome if you could share this with your friends on whatever platform you want to. I can't, run your life.
Of course, the show is only a small part of the Tatooine Sons world. So be sure to go on Facebook and like us there and follow us on Twitter to get in on all the action and stay updated on the latest pop culture news on TatooineSons.com.
Forget what we're called. Tatooine
We're
Sons.
still working on getting it set up.
Let's just be honest. We aren't working on it.
Yeah, you're right. We're not. Life's been a lot.
We will.
Neck is not much.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. Don't forget to follow this show on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss the next episode. And drop us a review on whatever podcast service that you listen to it on. It would mean a lot. Next week, we're going to talk about more Bad Batch.
Yeah.
We're going to probably start getting, I have a feeling we're going to be doing a preview for Loki here next week. And I'm sure we'll find some other fun stuff. There's been a lot of interesting things starting to creep up.
Yeah.
It
It helps that we're not just Star Wars, though.
Yeah. Well, no, pop culture's starting to have lots of fun. So we're excited to, and we hope you will stick with us on that. Anything else you guys want to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Joy, please.
Yep, yep.